We're now looking at solving linear equations, and we come here to this example 1 on page 164 in the textbook, and it says solve an equation with one root. Well, let's get a little bit of definitions out of the way. What is a root? Well, a root is just another term for the x-intercept. And if we want to find that x-intercept, let's go back and think about what we're talking about, which is that we set y equal to 0, and we solve the equation for x, and that is the root, that is the x-intercept. Now, we also use other terms other than root, and we use them often. One of those terms would be the zeros. What is the zero of the function equation? And that's pertaining again to where y equals 0 and we solve. We might also hear it called the solution. So we can hear it talked about the root. It can be defined as the x-intercept. You may hear it called as the zero, and also hear the term solution. All of those things meaning the same thing: root, zero, x-intercept, solution. But we got a couple of equations here, and over here on the left we say that 0 is equal to 2/5 x plus 6, and you might recognize this as, or if I substituted y for 0, it looks like a function equation. And we've set y equal to 0, so obviously we're trying to solve for the x-intercept or the root. But let's go ahead and solve this equation. So I'm going to start off here by subtracting 6 from both sides. And then that's going to give me negative 6 equals 2/5 x. Now, I'm multiplying 2/5 x, and so if I want to isolate the x, I need to divide both sides by 2/5. But you may recall that if I'm dividing by a fraction, that is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So if I'm going to divide both sides of this equation by 2/5, that's actually going to be negative 6 times 5/2. And that's now going to equal x. Okay, so let's see. If I look at this, well, I can do a little bit of reduction here, because 2 will go into negative 6 negative 3 times, and negative 3 times 5, numerator times numerator, equals negative 15. And so the x-intercept, or the root, or the 0, or the solution of this equation is negative 15, solving an equation with one root. Now let's look at this second example. Here I've got negative 1.25x plus 3. Well, we're just going to go about solving an equation as we would normally. And so let's subtract 3 from both sides. Again, you might recognize this 0 here. Well, I could substitute y in for that and make it look like a function equation. And so now we got negative 1.25x equals negative 3. And again, I want to isolate the x, and so I want to divide both sides of this equation by negative 1.25. I'm going to do it like this, just so we can get a visualization of what we're doing. And let's see, let me get my calculator out here. So I got negative 3 divided by negative 1.25, and that comes to 2.4. And so x, I'm dividing the negative by negative, is going to make that positive. And so the root, or the 0, or the solution, or the x-intercept of this particular equation is 2.4. Or, let's say 2 4/10, 2 2/5, 12/5, all of that the same thing. Let's go with the 2.4. What do you say?